first at English essay 10-4-13, which I did just get this year. Okay, what I'm going to do is have you vote like I was taught, and I do this too with the students here, for ideas looking at this paper. You could give it a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1. I don't know where the lights are, but it might be cool to kill the lights again. Thank you here. Okay, for ideas for this lovely paper, how many of you would give this a 5? Good. How many of you give it a 4? Good. How many of you give it a 3? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And a 2. And lots. And a 1. Okay. And you guys are all really nice here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And someone who gave it a 3 here.
Nice
Why
guy.
did you get it? What did you think? No, because, okay, when they first started this,
The first part was a lot better than the last. It started off good, then it got bad. So I kind of averaged it out.
Okay, all right.
True.
All right, and someone who gave it a 2 here, what's the reason you gave it a 2 here? Okay, we'll just walk
It's
through.
better than most of the writing we see.
Surely not, okay. Okay. Is it focused on one thing? Yeah, is it focused on one thing? No. Okay, I mean, he's kind of on a growing up, controlling idea. We really don't have one, and that pretty much kills it. Because then there's detail here, but we don't know why, so we don't know if he's been selected. We're not sure if he's shown any insight. He's kind of writing his experience. I also gave this paper a 2, okay, because I felt like he, well, and again, you know, no one should feel like that's right, okay, that's just what I did. But when this started, when we did the state test, they'd have 2 teachers grade the test, and the 2 teacher scores would have to be right next to each other. So some other people might very well have given it a 3. I could also see how someone could argue for it being a 1. But, so we'll go with a 2. Okay, next you have part of a research essay that one of my students did last year. And the assignment was to compare a person from real life to the model of the tragic hero. So they were to discuss power, they were to discuss flaw, whether or not that person had a flaw, and whether or not there was a catastrophe. So let's just see a show of hands here. How many of you would get, for ideas, would give Gandhi just those 2 paragraphs that you read? A 5, a 4, a 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. I had a 12-ish here, and a 2. 1, 2, 3. You guys are beginning to be like my classes. And a 1. Okay, I'm going to start demanding everyone raise their hands. But anyway, okay, someone who, I'm just going to start pegging someone right here. What score would you have given it, and why would you give it those scores?
I would have given it a 3, and it was clearer, much clearer than that first paper. Had an idea of where he was going, but I only read 2 paragraphs.
Right. Okay, this person also did end up with a 3 for me. We've got some, if you'll just look at that opening paragraph, Gandhi had a difficult but easy life. Okay.
Makes me want to read more.
He was born in India. Later on, he made it to England to study law. Without even to South Africa, did law work there. He realized that all Indians were treated badly. This sparked many of his campaigns and protests. He possessed many modern tragic hero does not have the flaw which makes him a modern tragic hero. Okay. Just looking at that paragraph, we don't know when Gandhi lived. We don't even know his whole name. Okay. He hasn't explained that he went back to India and accomplished anything. And they also didn't even define the tragic hero. They should have mentioned power, flaw, and catastrophe right there. The next paragraph, Gandhi was willing to do whatever it took to stand up for his beliefs. He would put his life on the line. He fasted when he thought something was not right. He also received many death threats. He knew what dangers would come upon him, some lead protests and the like. Okay, all of that's true. She needed to mention the word power in there because even that paragraph needed to explain exactly what she was thinking. So it's not that she's off. She's going to survive in the world. So I put a 3. Now, and I will also tell you, she had to come in after school to fix up the citations because there weren't citations like they needed to be. Okay, if we will turn over to Moctezuma here. For Moctezuma, how many of you give it a 5? 1, 2, okay. You all have to raise your hands at some point. How many of you give it a 5? Okay, kind of 12-ish. And a 4. Okay, and kind of 12-ish. And a 3. 3. Okay. And a 2. 1. Over here, you gave it a 3. What would keep you from giving it a 5?
I'm so darn confused. It's too wordy. It's too big words, and they don't get to the point at the very first. I mean, the thesis is towards the end of the introduction, but there's too much new information in the intro. And I feel like I'm confused.
Okay, all right, and then someone who gave
Attention in the building, Jacob Kirkby, please come to the front office. Jacob Kirkby, please come to the front office. Thank you.
someone who gave it a 5.
Jesse did.
I did. It was well organized. There was lots of supporting details. He does have a clear point, he or she, I don't know. Cite their sources. They,
Okay, now, and
thanks, man. Thanks, bro.
what is fantastic about what you both just said are reasons that we need to use the 6 traits, because the wordiness we're going to deal with under word choice, and the organization we're going to deal with under organization. And I actually gave a whole batch of separate points for having the citations right here. But this is where it keeps me honest. Is it focused on one thing and clear? And I would say yes. Is there a controlling idea? Yes. Is there a lot of detail in there? Do we know who he was, when he lived, some of his accomplishments? Yes. Is there anything in there that doesn't belong to him? No. Are we beginning to learn things already? Does he have a lot of information? Is it whole? You know, the whole essay was like this, and I gave this a 5 here. 4 ideas. Okay? All right. So you do want to keep things separate. You need to keep, because it's entirely possible for a kid to have 5 on ideas and 2s on everything else. Okay? So you're going to have to keep that separate. Okay, let's go to organization here. For organization, we're looking for it to open with a real lead, which means some really exciting opening that makes us want to read. Sequencing is, are things going in the right order? Pacing is, are you spending the right amount of time on things, or are you spending amounts of time on things that are irrelevant? Are there smooth transitions? Is there a high point? And this is where, for me, organization kind of links to ideas. In an essay, we're looking for that controlling idea to be proved, and that's really the high point. here, building to a high point for me is more like in a story where we're wanting a climax. And at the end then, is there a sense of resolution? Okay, looking back at the opening English essay, 10-4 here. Does it open with a real lead here? When I was young, I always wanted to stay being a kid that would never grow up. Yes, that's not bad. Effective sequencing, does this come in the right order? Is there an order? There's really not an order. Has he spent the right amount of time on things? And actually, this would be a place where I'd look at, are there any paragraphs?
There's one.
Where, yeah. But, you know, it's not indented, so I'm not
Ah.
really sure about that. But, so we really don't know why he spent any particular amount of time on anything. Smooth transitions, does he lead us smoothly from one idea to another? You know, kinda, when I was young, I always wanted to stay being a kid that would never grow up. But as time went by, I would come to see that the real adventure begins with being an adult. You get to a job and do stuff you never did when you were a kid, like go to other countries by yourself. You get to have a family of your, he's got some transitional words in there. Does it build to a high point, or does he prove this thesis? No. Is there a sense of resolution at the end? Does it feel whole? Does it feel finished? You take care of them with your best effort and love for them. Does that feel like it's all pulled together? So really not here. And I think pretty much I gave this a 1-2 on organization here. Okay, on to the Gandhi paper. Okay. For essays, what I have tried, and you guys, I remember being taught, and you know, it still works for me, is that candy wrapper model here, where if you think of some candy that's tied at the end, and we don't have any here, but like a bubble gum, something that has that tie at the end. You want the introduction to pull us down to the thesis.
Can you bring it?
Oh, sorry. Okay. And the thesis is the thesis is really what holds all the candy in there. It's that twist that holds it together. And then these would be supporting paragraphs, and then the thesis would be restated here, and then the student would let the reader go. And they actually pulled in some national expert for us at the high school a couple years ago, and she out and out said, tell your students, the thesis goes at the end of the first paragraph, okay? Just out and out said that. And so that is what I was looking for in these research papers that I'm going to show you here, or that you're looking at for me. That would be one place where you really could help out the high school and help the students, is if they would know that there needed to be that thesis at the end of the opening. And then I tell them that the topic sentence can be anywhere in here, but there needs to be something that pulls them back to the thesis. So sometimes I've told them the thesis is kind of like a necklace, like the chain, and the paragraphs are like beads hanging off that chain. Because the thesis is what's holding everything together. Okay, so looking back here at Gandhi's opening paragraph. Here, we already went through and we can see that she does lead us down. Her as close as she gets to a thesis statement is that last sentence of the first paragraph. Okay, then she does have, here again, then she does have, Gandhi was willing to do whatever it took to stand up from his beliefs. That would have been fine for a topic sentence if she could have worked that word power in there. Then, if you will flip over I gave you also her conclusion. If you'll look to the very last paragraph of the Gandhi paper, it starts, it's 4 lines from the bottom. Gandhi had many qualities to make him a modern tragic hero, but did not have a flaw. Many people did think tolerance was a flaw, but it was not. He may not have been perfect, but he was and still is admired by many people. Okay, so we're gonna go back here to, we're just gonna walk through organization. Does she open with a real lead? Gandhi had a difficult but easy life. Not so much. Sequencing, she does have the paragraphs I asked for. She has a paragraph on power. She then has this paragraph, the next paragraph is on flaw, which is what I asked for. The next paragraph, which is kind of the middle of that next page, Godsey's threatened and betrayed feelings to assassinate Gandhi. Okay. We'll look at sentences in a moment. But this is her paragraph on catastrophe. Then she's actually blown it here on this next paragraph. Gandhi had so much force that it got him killed. She was supposed to discuss the force within the man who killed Gandhi, so she's blown it there. But that's an issue of ideas. What I want us to look at here in terms of sequencing is, and we're hardly going to be able to do that with that. I was trying not to make you read a whole paper, and I'm still not going to. The order of the paragraphs is an issue, and you would recognize in looking at your students' papers that some paragraphs need to come first before you get to others, and that's really what it's looking at. Pacing, she's not spending the right amount of time on things. Transitions, she does, if you look on the second page of her essay, where it says, the first paragraph ends with, threatened because it made him feel like he might be wrong about his own religion. And the next sentence in the next paragraph has Godsey's threatened and betrayed feelings to assassinate Gandhi. I had told the students that if they would use a couple of words from the end of one paragraph and use those words in the beginning of the next paragraph, that would help them have some transitions. So she has tried to have some transitions. At the end, there is kind of a resolution. So again, I put a 3 there. Just because it was okay, but it was not great. Okay, if you'll turn to Moctezuma there. Moctezuma, we're going to look here at the lead. One of the most pivotal moments in world history came when the Aztec leader Moctezuma II, more commonly and inaccurately known as Montezuma, met the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés in the year 1519. Okay, not a bad opening there, one of the most pivotal moments in world history. Okay, effective sequencing, he did have all the paragraphs I asked for. He did spend a good amount of time on each one. Transitions, if you'll look at his thesis, to fit the model of a Greek tragic hero, one must have the power of a Greek king and opposing an inevitable force, a flaw that weakens him or her, and a catastrophe. He's laid that out, and his next sentence says Moctezuma was certainly powerful. So he's used a word from the end of this first paragraph here, and then he's pulled that word here. So he is working at transitions. If you will turn to the very last paragraph, very last page, Moctezuma was a tragic hero of the Greek model because he had the power of a Greek king, a flaw in opposing force, and a catastrophic downfall. So again, he's nailing that home in conclusion, like I had asked for them to do here, where they pull it back to the thesis and a sense of resolution. So I gave them a 5 here. Now that we've been through these enough, I think it'll be easier on these next ones. For voice here, because we're keeping all this separate. Voice means, does it sound like there's a real person behind the words? Sometimes I get papers that sound like in the computer spit them out and no one cares. Games. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for someone who wants to interact with the reader. They're writing to be read. They're aware of someone out there and want to speak to them. They're committed and involved. They need what they say. The text is lively. There's a kind of vitality. It's personal. It's one of a kind. It's unique. Okay, on the 10-4 essay here, for voice, I'm going to have you guys vote again. How many of you would give this a 5, a 4, a 3? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, a 6, and for 3 here, and a 2. 1, okay, and a 6. You guys aren't voting. And a 1. Okay, someone who gave it a 3. I'm gonna call on you here. What score did you give it?
Well, like a 2 or 3, you can definitely like tell the person writing that
Yeah.
kind of probably, but.
Okay, and I think he was sincere. I think he meant what he said. I think he's gonna survive in the world. A 3 means adequate. So for voice, I would have given this a 3. Okay, for Gandhi here, I'm going to have you go here, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, for voice, how many of you give this a 5, a 4, a 3, okay, and a 12-ish, a 2, okay, kind of 12-ish, and a 1. Okay, gentlemen back here under the flag, you gave it a 2. What's going to keep, what did you not feel like she was doing?
Maybe the lively, just, it's not,
Pretty flat.
yeah,
Okay.
it's fair.
Yeah, not too much commitment. Okay, frankly, Scarlett, she really didn't. Okay, and someone who gave it a 3, Cheryl, I think you gave it a 3. What made you give it a 3? What did you feel like she was doing well enough?
In the voice part,
Yeah.
I just thought she was talking to us and telling
Yeah.
us something that maybe we didn't realize, so I thought it was going beyond. But
Yeah. Okay, I gave it a 3, mainly, I think, because it's like, it's okay. You know, adequate is okay. And also on voice, I mean, unless they're using words they shouldn't and saying, you know, I know, I mean, unless, pretty much I could agree, and that's just my bent. But again, on those state tests, used to be that if the 2 teachers' scores were right next to each other, they said good enough. So I think you definitely can make a case for it being a 2. Okay, over here on Montezuma here. How many for voice? And we're just looking at voice. We give this a 5. 4. Okay, and then 12-ish again. And, oh, sorry, 12 here. I'll put that over here, 12. And then 3. 3, 1, 2, 3, okay. And a 2, 1, okay. You gave it a 3 here. What did you not feel like he was doing well? Yes.
I just thought it was kind of factual, because you can't get a lot of voice in something like that.
Okay, and she has a point here. This is a research paper. So we're not expecting them to necessarily charm us, although, you know, that wouldn't be bad for a research paper to be charming. So I can understand that. someone who gave it a 4, someone over here who gave it a 4.
I did.
Thank you, Deb.
Just his, their use of words, they had some powerful word choice, I felt, and then just the way they took the time to word the sentences, so it wasn't just basically all factual, so, yet despite his power, Montezuma was also flawed. I mean, you could tell that they spent some time, to me, not making it as dry and factual as it could have been.
Okay, and I actually gave a 5 here, because because of what Beth's talking about. He was committed, he meant this, he wanted people to read it, he was trying to let us know how important Montezuma was. He did take the time to find just the words he wanted. It was just one person who could do this. I have any number of kids who could write what she wrote on Gandhi, okay? The Gandhi is like a 3, definitely, okay? But this Montezuma for me is like more one of a kind. It's not that just any student could read this. He meant for someone to read it. He was trying to teach us. So I was given a 5. Okay, word choice. We're looking for a strong vocabulary, which would mean that they're able to use a lot of words, but at the same time it needs to be natural, meaning that just because they know some whoop-de-doo word, it doesn't mean it's necessarily the time to use it. Are they making a choice? Are they selecting words? Do they have energetic verbs? And I use with the student's example said. He said hello is not very energetic. It'd be a lot more energetic for them to say, he whispered hello, or he screamed hello, or he cried hello. Any of those tell us the mouth open, but the latter ones I gave you told us more. Everyday words with a fresh twist. I still remember, and this is 1993, okay, where a student said the old woman's voice crumpled. And I thought that was such a cool word because voices don't crumple. Leaves crumple, paper crumples. But she used that in a new way. She was the one that I caught in the bathroom smoking, but she'd hidden the cigarette in her hair, and it started burning. So I remember her. There was like, your hair! Okay. Minimal repetitions, cliches, abstract language. All right. On-word choice. Okay. Pretty much for me, as long as they have not used foul language and aren't totally jumbling up with what words mean, it would be a 3. Okay? So I would have given both this first essay and Gandhi a 3. On Montezuma there, I think we would all agree that he's used a wide range of vocabulary. I think some of us definitely have issues with whether or not it sounded natural here, whether it was too whoop-de-doo. So I think if you had a 4 or a 5 for word choice, you'd be in line. I can see why some might make a case for a 3. I actually gave him a 5 because I felt like he had worked very hard to get really strong words in there. But again, the teachers can disagree, and that would be fine. Okay, sentence fluency and conventions. We're not going to even look at here because what I would want to say to you, okay, well, you've got there what we're supposed to look for sentence fluency. And what I would encourage, I think a number of teachers who are not language arts teachers feel awkward about grading sentence fluency or conventions because they feel like, I don't know everything. Okay, what I will tell you, and this is back to Ruby Payne, we want our kids to speak and write green, which is something she said, that we want them to make money. And if you recognize that a sentence is wrong, tell them, okay? And the same thing with conventions. If you may not know every single little grammar rule, like Miss Pickler, I'm sure does, and I'm teasing you, but if you still know that needs an apostrophe, tell them, okay? Because we're not helping them become green with their writing unless we're helping them see what the formal pattern is. Because it is that formality, those formal patterns that will get them higher paying jobs and move them farther on in the world. So so that would be the thing there. Now, what on grading here for you guys, what I do use the 6 traits every single time I grade. But what I wanted to encourage all of you who are not language arts teachers, it will help a lot if you will use the same language, because if you're beginning to have to talk to the kids about organization, or if you're beginning to talk to them about word choice, it's going to help them hear that this is not just a language arts thing. Because you know, if they only hear these things in the language arts class, they're going to think that this is school talk, and they don't have to know it outside of school. But if everyone's using it, then they're going to begin to pay attention. But I would definitely encourage those of you in different fields to decide how you want to weight these. Some of you, in some situations, might want to have ideas be worth 3 times the points, and maybe organization and voice and word choice get 2 times the points. Maybe sentence fluency and conventions get 1 time the points. You can change how you want to weight this. Okay, then let me see what else I want to say. Yes.
I have a question. As a teacher, I mean, I used to train my journalism at one time. But one of the hardest things, having kids for 9 weeks, and you know, the first time you just even see any writing, you're really trying to decide. I mean, there's so many different levels, and we have, let's say, 125 kids. And so I always feel like I start getting real wishy-washy or real soft, because I'm thinking, okay, obviously this kid is a real low writer, you know, and so, and I know we differentiate and we modify, and I have a lot of different, I have like 4 different modifications on my journals, but it's still, that's what gets me hard is I get soft, I guess. And so the inflections and the sentence fluency, that stuff's almost easier to grade.
That's true.
It's not as judgmental.
Well, and that's true. That is true. What I would say there is, this is where it'd be good, as you guys are talking as a building, maybe when kids are coming in at 6th grade, if they walk in your door the first, are you guys on 9 weeks? I know you, okay. The first 9 weeks, maybe you say to them, okay guys, you've just come in the door, right now I'm just grading ideas, but you should know by the end of
9 weeks.
the 9 weeks, or, and this is where, you know, if the English teachers are definitely hitting them, well, if all of you are hitting them with these words in the first 9 weeks, by the end of the 9 weeks, you should be able to grade on all those things. So I do see your point, for sure. And different teachers teach things differently. Some of my, some of the English teachers will like teach ideas and then say, okay, I'm gonna grade this for ideas. And then they teach organization, I'm gonna grade this for organization. And then this, I'm gonna grade, they teach voice and they're gonna grade this for voice. So there's not a correct way. It's just that over and over, and I think I may be at my time. So what I wanted ding with, what I wanted to leave you with was again in this white paper, and I'm going to quote, he says, perhaps no other recommendation is more important than this. We must provide students with lots of opportunities to practice and apply writing skills. And I tell my students that learning to write is a lot like learning to swim. They flat have to spend time in the water. If you guys are all helping them write, they are going to do better. But it is an issue of all of you, not just the English teachers. Now, I think my time's up. I still have some things here on how different teachers at the 9th grade are using, are dealing with writing. So, I'm willing to stay, but I also totally respect your time and totally understand, if you expect it to be done.
We have about 5 more minutes if you want to keep going.
Okay, all right, all right, different types of writing here, science, you do lab reports, maybe some science fiction, even here requiring those complete sentences. And I think a lot of you do short answer things on essay tests. And what will definitely help is if in their paragraph, if the first sentence, if you can help them know that the first sentence needs to answer the question, okay? That first sentence needs to answer the question. Then they can give example 1, example 2, example 3, and then the conclusion should sum that up. So even those of you who never do a full-blown essay, you can teach some organization there by demanding the first sentence needs to answer the question. Okay, art. You can have them evaluate their own pieces of art or explain what artist is influencing them. Math might explain what particular steps they use to solve a particular problem, or maybe explaining how a particular type of math is necessary to use in the real world. PE explaining what self-fitness routine they've set up for themselves. Facts, why are they gonna choose a particular kind of diet, vegan versus carnivorous or whatever they're, okay, so you guys would know better than I on that. I did bring in, Shane Seaman let me bring in, he teaches social studies. He had a thing that it was not a test exactly, he said. He sent home, or rather, in class, they had this study guide where he gave them different documents to read here. And let me see if I go the other direction. Okay, he gave them different documents to read, and then they were to answer specific questions about those documents. And so there were several documents here, and several there were charts and graphs for them to read, and even for language arts people, they are telling us we need to have them read things that aren't words here. But then he had a document-based essay here. Directions, use at least 3 of the documents in answering the following question. Your essay should be 4 paragraphs in length, including an introductory paragraph, 2 body paragraphs, and a concluding paragraph. And so, again, what would have really helped this particular essay is if she didn't have the thesis, the first sentence, but at the end of her first paragraph. And then what would have helped hers is to have each internal paragraph start with a point, which isn't bad here. The Industrial Revolution was worth the pain because the production rate increased by 1,000, as the chart displayed, document 6 shows. Okay, so that eventually, I think he said he had 2 class periods, and then they even got to take it home over the weekend. Then Brad Bridges gave me this. He has an ecology issues project, and they go through websites, and then they are to figure out, they are to explain what problem they've chosen, how do we know there's a problem, what causes the problem, possible future effects of the problem, what's being done to solve the problem, what can an individual do to help, and then say the URL. Here, general rules, no copying and pasting, and no Wikipedia, which is something that we do try to get. No Wikipedia here. But then, in this, this is a group project as a PowerPoint, but his slides are written. 2, attention grabber, put a thought-provoking question or an image here. Slides 3 through 5 explain the topic, what is the problem, why is it a problem, and paste, graphs and data tables. Slides 6 through 8 explain what can be done. So all of this is stuff that would need to be written out ahead of time before it got presented. Though, I was speaking with Shane today, and he was handing me more stuff, because he's saying that, well, he handed me this, that is philosophy in the age of reason. Which of the following statements do you most agree with? Explain why. He's having them look at different articles here, and then write how do Development-Oct differ in their views on the rule of government. He said that he is having the students write more and more and more, because he's finding that it's really helping them with their comprehension. So that the writing is helping them learn with their reading. Okay. Y'all are, I'm grateful to you, and I'm embarrassed to be here because I know so many of you know more than I do. And thank you all for what you did for my girls. Yes.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that it was very nice that you presented it that way, because we call that the hourglass. That's what we
Okay.
presented before about the thesis statements, and so it fit in very, very nicely. Thank you.
Very good.
And just don't let your kids use the word stuff.
Yeah, stuff would be another.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff in this
Like-
experiment.
Other questions or comments for Ann? Thanks, Janet, for pointing that out, that's trying to tell you.